It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. In Turkey, although there are a variety of public institutions which have responsibilities about recovery of infrastructure, I will inform you about post-disaster infrastructure recovery efforts made by AFAD especially. This slide shows the context of my presentation. I'm going to talk about AFAD Recovery Department, National Aid Working Group, and examples from recent disasters and lessons learned from Düzce flood. AFAD is a governmental authority which coordinates works not only pre-disaster planning and mitigation, but also post-disaster response and recovery efforts. One of 12 departments of AFAD is Recovery Department. AFAD carry out duties on recovery phases by Recovery Department. Recovery Department consists of 6 working groups. These are image assessment, national aid, right ownership and indebtedness, spatial planning, psychosocial service, and project and construction working groups. When disaster occurs, recovery process is operated as follows in our country. First operation immediately afterwards disaster is the image assessment. The image assessment working group is responsible for the image evaluation of buildings. Then National Aid Working Group provides emergency aid to the disaster area. Right ownership and in-depth working group is responsible for determination of right ownership and construction of new houses for disaster victims. These 2 groups' activities are performed based on image assessment work results. Finally, spatial planning working group is responsible for obtaining and planning temporary sheltering and new residential areas. One of the working group of Recovery Department is National Aid Working Group. The main task of this group is providing funds for the recovery of the damaged infrastructures in disaster areas by keeping the Build Back Better mission in mind. National Aid Working Group is basically responsible for providing emergency aid to the disaster areas. This is a financial aid which is sent to disaster areas in order to meet the basic needs of disaster victims, like food, medical treatment, temporary sheltering, and also to ensure that the critical facilities. National Aid Working Group can use 2 types of funds. First one is emergency aid fund, and the other one is the fund for the recovery of infrastructure damage. These funds have different law bases. The number of these laws are 590002 and 4123, respectively. Purpose and process of demand transfer and usage of these funds differ from each other. Emergency aid fund is sent to the disaster-affected province governorship for meeting the emergency needs, while funds for recovery of infrastructure is sent to the municipality or provincial spatial administration of the disaster area for the range state operation level of infrastructure. Under coordination of AFAD, institution listed at the above works together to determine the image of infrastructure systems and the budget needed to ensure the critical facilities operate after the disaster at local level. Directorate of Disaster and Emergency, İl-Bank, Regional Directorate of Highways, Governorship of Province, Directorate of Environment and Urbanization, and Provincial Spatial Administration. This diagram shows the workflow of how the emergency aid fund transferred to the disaster area. And this is the workflow how fund the recovery of infrastructure damage transferred to the municipality or spatial administration of disaster area. I will mention about infrastructure recovery efforts made after some disasters which have occurred recently in our country. First example is Denizli earthquake, which occurred in 2009, magnitude of 5.5 hit the region, and approximately 2,000 dwellings were detected as heavily damaged. As you can see from the slide, especially dwellings were damaged, and on the other hand, there were no major damage on infrastructure at the zone. So we didn't make use of the critical facilities fund. Instead, needs are supplied from the emergency aid fund. Some examples of basic needs covered by emergency aid fund sent to the earthquake area by AFAD. Another example is Düzce flash flood, which has occurred in 2019. As it can be seen from these photos, unlike Denizli earthquake, Düzce flood causes several infrastructure damage in disaster area. Some damage photos from the disaster region, you can see. That's why for the Düzce flood, critical facility funds were used more than emergency aid funds. Well, what about lessons learned from Düzce flood, and what will be our approach and strategies to make the infrastructure more resilient? I will talk about these issues in this chapter. 5 surveys conducted after Düzce flood show us that there are 5 main reasons infrastructure damage. These are incorrect land use, external intervention to stream beds, insufficient road crossing structures, and landslide and sedimentation. In accordance to lessons as learned, we had some new approaches and implementations. One of them is about stream beds. We cleaned them from sediments and any other external substances. Then stream beds was expanded to be able to avoid new floods. Secondly, we had to change roads of some roads. There wasn't any change to use them in any case due to their vulnerability. As I mentioned before, one of the lessons learned from disaster is inadequacy of road crossing construction of some roads. Take into account not only its quantity but also quality. So we changed some of them with better quality and made new ones for some roads. Lastly, some of them have been rebuilt by using new techniques and constantly new regulation. For example, previous bridge on this road was built 40 years ago. It was damaged severely. We completely destroyed it. Then, thanks to today's techniques, we reconstructed it. As you can see from the photo, hybrid material used. Some part of it's steel and some part of it's reinforced concrete. Thank you for your attention.